You may be doing everything right in your spiritual life, but there's one small detail that could be silently sabotaging your inner peace, and the worst part is, you may not even notice. What Padre Pio revealed is too simple to ignore, yet powerful enough to never be underestimated. 3 words. Just 3. Spoken every night before sleep, they have the power to transform your relationship with God and, even more so, with yourself. The curious part: most people have never heard of this, or if they have, they didn't give it the attention it deserves, until it's too late. Now, imagine the impact of sleeping in true peace. Not that superficial calm that disappears with the first problem of the next day, but a peace deeply rooted in your soul, shielded against stress, anxiety, and fear of the future. This isn't an empty promise, it's a direct invitation to experience something that many overlook: the power of spiritual simplicity. What you are about to discover isn't just any prayer or generic advice. It's a key that can open doors you didn't even know were locked. And the most surprising part: these 3 words may seem ordinary, but they carry within them a secret that has changed the lives of countless people throughout history, and now it can change yours. Are you ready to hear what Padre Pio wanted everyone to know? Because once you know, there's no turning back. The awakening begins now. Sometimes, what transforms a person's spiritual life isn't a grand event, but the habit of small daily actions. Think of it like a plant. You don't need to dump a whole bucket of water at once, but water it a little each day. Before sleep, a simple act of prayer, a brief Bible reading, or even a heartfelt thank you to Jesus Christ can create deep roots in the soul. The secret lies in consistency, not grandeur. Now, imagine the impact of 5 minutes dedicated to spirituality before going to bed. Closing your eyes and reflecting on the blessings of the day, even if it was a hard one, is a powerful exercise of faith. It could be a short devotional prayer, a verse from the Gospel to meditate on, or even a whispered praise in the dark. These are small gestures, but they accumulate an invisible treasure in the heart, naturally and spontaneously strengthening your connection with God. The most interesting thing is that these small practices create a domino effect. Today you give thanks, tomorrow you forgive, then you trust. Without realizing it, your mind gets used to positive thoughts, and your soul finds peace amidst the daily chaos. This simple cycle, fueled by minimal actions, can transform not just your routine but your entire outlook on life. After all, great miracles start with seeds of faith planted in small moments. The moment before sleep is more than just the end of a day. It's a sacred opportunity to reflect and connect with what truly matters. When the silence of the night arrives and the distractions disappear, the mind finally has space to hear the whisper of spirituality. It's in this instant that a simple prayer or a thought of gratitude can do more for the heart than hours of worry during the day. The rest of the body starts with the peace of the soul. Now, think about this. Instead of falling asleep scrolling on your phone or reliving mental arguments, how about setting aside 2 minutes for a sincere dialogue with God? It doesn't have to be an elaborate sermon. It could be something simple, like thanking for the small victories, asking for guidance, or simply acknowledging His divine presence. This brief moment of worship transforms the act of sleep into a true personal worship, where the spirit finds rest before the body even does. Interestingly, this practice creates a kind of spiritual hygiene. Just as brushing your teeth is a habit for the body, nighttime prayer cleanses the heart of the emotional impurities accumulated throughout the day. By releasing tensions and handing over your worries to Jesus Christ, you not only sleep better, but you wake up with a lightness that no coffee can provide. After all, those who end the day in peace begin the next with clarity and purpose. Padre Pio, one of the greatest examples of faith in Christianity, left a simple yet powerful secret: 3 words to say before sleep that can transform anyone's spiritual life. Thank you, forgive, and I trust. At first glance, they may seem like just common words, but when spoken with sincerity, they carry immense spiritual weight. They are not just a ritual, but a daily invitation to a more intimate relationship with God. Saying thank you is recognizing the blessings received, even on difficult days. Forgive is an act of humility, both in asking and granting forgiveness, releasing the heart from resentments that erode inner peace. I trust is a declaration of pure faith, a reminder that, despite uncertainties, God is in control. Padre Pio knew that these simple words could serve as a powerful prayer, a small nightly sermon capable of realigning the spirit with the gospel. What's fascinating is that these 3 words don't require long speeches to work. They touch the heart directly, awakening a deep spiritual connection. Imagine ending the day saying, "Thank you, Lord, for everything. Forgive me for my mistakes. I trust you for tomorrow." It's like closing the door of the day with a key of peace, knowing that you are not alone. A simple secret, yet it carries the power of a true testimony of faith. Thank you isn't just a formality, it's an act of gratitude that goes beyond the obvious. Saying thank you to God, even after a difficult day, is a faith exercise that transforms the heart. It's not about ignoring the difficulties, but recognizing that, in the midst of them, there are hidden blessings. Whether it's the smile of a stranger, an unexpected act of kindness, or simply the fact that you're alive. Gratitude doesn't change what happened, but it changes how you see what you've lived through. Forgiveness is a heavy word because it carries the power of emotional healing. Asking for forgiveness is an act of courage, admitting that we are flawed and need God's grace. Forgiving, on the other hand, is freeing the heart from an invisible burden. It's not about forgetting what happened, but choosing not to let the hurt define who you are. When you say forgiveness before you sleep, you're cleansing the soul, turning your pillow into a place of true rest, not a battlefield of the mind. Trust is more than just a word, it's a leap of faith. Trusting God means surrendering the control we never truly had. It's saying, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I know who's in charge. This act of surrender brings a peace that the world cannot offer. When you whisper, I trust, in the dark of your room, you're lighting a flame within your soul, a light that guides you even in the darkest moments. Repeating words mechanically is like humming a song without paying attention to the lyrics. It might sound nice, but it lacks soul. When it comes to spirituality, intention is everything. Saying, thank you, forgive, and trust before you sleep isn't an empty mantra, it's a real moment of connection with God. The secret lies in feeling each word, letting it echo in your heart and turning thoughts into true prayer. Heaven doesn't respond to automatic formulas, but to what comes from the soul. Imagine someone saying, I love you, without looking into your eyes, just out of habit. It loses its meaning, doesn't it? The same thing happens with our devotional words. When you say thank you, think about what you're thanking for. When you ask for forgiveness, reflect on your shortcomings and the desire to improve. And when you say, I trust, feel the genuine surrender of what's beyond your control. It's a conversation with God, not a memorized script. The power is in sincerity, not repetition. The conscious practice of these words creates a sacred space in the day, even if it only lasts a few minutes. This small nightly ritual can be the deepest moment of spirituality, if it's lived with presence. It doesn't matter how tired or rushed you are. What matters is stopping, breathing, and with an open heart, turning simple words into bridges to the divine. After all, what makes the difference isn't what you say, but how you feel when you say it. Practicing gratitude, forgiveness, and trust before sleep isn't just a spiritual gesture, it's a gift to the body and mind. One of the first benefits you'll notice is improved sleep quality. By releasing worries and handing over control to God, the mind slows down and the heart finds rest. It's not magic, but a peace that comes from the certainty that, even in silence, Jesus Christ is taking care of everything. Another direct impact is the reduction of stress and anxiety. When you end the day reflecting on blessings, releasing grudges, and trusting in the divine plan, it's like lifting an invisible weight off your shoulders. The problems don't disappear, but they lose their power to consume you. Nighttime prayer, praise, and worship act as an emotional detox, cleansing the mind so the new day begins with more lightness and clarity. And the most beautiful part, the strengthening of your connection with God. These small daily moments create a spiritual bond that grows over time, nurturing faith and continuous spiritual growth. It's like a friendship. The more you talk, the closer it becomes. The difference is that, in this case, you're building a direct relationship with the Creator, something that goes beyond religion. It's a bond of love, trust, and hope that transforms the day and life. Gratitude has a quiet but revolutionary power. It shifts the focus from what's lacking to what's already present. Instead of ending the day thinking about unmet goals, past mistakes, or challenges faced, the practice of gratitude helps you see the small victories that usually go unnoticed. A smile from a stranger, a hot cup of coffee, the simple fact that you're alive. These are daily blessings that, when recognized, light up even the darkest days. The most interesting part is that gratitude doesn't need big reasons to exist. Even in difficult times, there's always something to be thankful for. Padre Pio used to say that true faith is revealed when we find light even in the midst of darkness. By saying thank you before bed, you're training your heart to see beyond the problems, recognizing God's hand in every detail of life, no matter how small it seems. This transformation in perspective doesn't happen overnight, but over time, your brain starts automatically seeking the positive side of situations. The mind, nourished by gratitude, becomes fertile ground for peace and hope. The result? Less anxiety, more contentment, and a spirituality that doesn't depend on external circumstances to flourish. After all, true abundance isn't in what we have, but in how we see what we already have. Forgiveness is one of the most challenging and, at the same time, most liberating acts in spiritual life. Often, we think that forgiving is a gift for the other, but in reality, it's a gift for ourselves. Holding on to grudges is like carrying a heavy suitcase all day long. It tires you out, burdens you, and prevents you from moving forward. When you say forgiveness before bed, you're choosing to release that burden and make space for inner peace to grow. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or justifying what happened. It's about freeing the heart from the control that pain has over it. Jesus Christ himself taught us, through the gospel, the importance of forgiving 70 times 7, not to relieve the other, but to keep our soul light. Sometimes, the hardest forgiveness is the one we owe to ourselves, for the mistakes and choices we regret. But this, too, is the most transformative. By practicing forgiveness daily, you create a routine of emotional healing. Before sleep, take a brief moment to reflect. Is there something or someone that still occupies a negative space in your heart? If so, offer it up to God in prayer. You don't have to solve everything at once, but each small act of forgiveness is a step towards emotional freedom. And believe me, sleeping with a peaceful heart is the first step to waking up with a renewed soul. Trusting in God is one of the purest ways to demonstrate faith, especially when life doesn't make sense. Saying, "I trust," before bed is an act of surrender, a recognition that, despite the uncertainties, there is a greater plan in motion. It's easy to trust when everything is going well, but true spirituality flourishes when we can rest our hearts even in the middle of storms. It's like saying, "Lord, I don't understand what's happening, but I know you are in control." This trust doesn't eliminate the challenges, but it transforms the way we deal with them. Imagine a ship in the open sea. The sailor can't control the wind, but he can adjust the sails. In the same way, we don't control everything that happens around us, but we can choose whom to trust. When anxiety knocks at your door at night, instead of feeding worrying thoughts, repeat with conviction, "I trust in you, Lord." This isn't just a phrase, it's a shield against fear. What's most interesting is that the more we practice this surrender, the more we notice God's presence in the details of everyday life. Small signs that He is taking care of everything, even when we don't see it right away. Trust is a daily exercise that grows as we surrender to the certainty that we are not alone. Sleeping with that peace in your heart is not a luxury, it's a promise for those who choose to rest, not just their bodies, but also their souls, in the arms of God. Gratitude, forgiveness, and trust form a powerful cycle of spiritual transformation, where each element feeds off the other, creating a virtuous circle of inner peace. When you give thanks, your heart opens to recognize the blessings, even in the midst of difficulties. This makes it easier to forgive because the focus shifts from the pain to the lesson learned. And by forgiving, trust naturally arises, because you release the past and look to the future with hope. This cycle is not a magic formula, but a continuous process of growth. Imagine a tree. Gratitude is the root that keeps it grounded, forgiveness is the trunk that supports it, and trust are the branches that stretch toward the sky. One cannot exist without the other. When one of these elements is lacking, emotional and spiritual balance is compromised. But when they are in harmony, the result is a life that is lighter, centered, and more connected with God. The most beautiful part is that the more you practice this cycle, the more natural it becomes. At first, it might feel forced, but over time, giving thanks, forgiving, and trusting become automatic reflections of the soul. You begin the day with gratitude, face challenges with a heart ready to forgive, and end with the certainty that God is in control. This is the true cycle of spiritual transformation, simple in practice, but profound in results. Before sleep, the mind is fertile ground to plant seeds that will bloom the next day. A powerful practice is reflecting on the day. Think about the moments when you felt God's presence, the lessons learned, and even the challenges faced. This exercise isn't for judging what was right or wrong, but for seeing life through the eyes of spirituality. A devotional journal can help, where you write brief thoughts on gratitude, forgiveness, and trust. Another transformative practice is the prayer of gratitude and surrender. It doesn't need to be long or complex. What matters is that it is sincere. Thank God for what you've lived, ask forgiveness for your mistakes, and surrender to God what is beyond your control. Imagine placing your worries in a prayer box in your mind and leaving it at the feet of Jesus Christ. This not only soothes the heart but also strengthens the connection with the divine, creating a moment of intimate and personal worship. Finally, try visualization exercises to release worries. Close your eyes and imagine yourself surrounded by a light of peace and divine protection. Visualize your fears being carried away like leaves in the wind, while God's presence fills the empty space with serenity. This simple act of faith calms the mind, reduces anxiety, and prepares the spirit for deep rest. After all, sleeping in peace is not just a wish, it's a reflection of the soul in harmony with the Creator. The nightly practices don't stop before sleep. They echo throughout the following day, shaping thoughts, attitudes, and even decisions. When you start the day with a light heart, a result of a night of reflection, prayer, and surrender, the mind gains clarity. Small stresses that would have caused irritation lose their power because the soul wakes up already rooted in peace. It's like carrying an invisible shield, an emotional protection that comes from your connection with God. This mental clarity reflects in wiser, more balanced choices. Imagine facing a day full of challenges with the serenity of someone who knows that, no matter what happens, God is in control. This doesn't mean problems disappear, but it means you handle them differently. Anxiety decreases, patience increases, and even the way you relate to people transforms. The gospel becomes more than just words. It becomes a living practice in every action. The most surprising part is that these simple habits create a virtuous cycle. The day starts well because it ended well. And the more you cultivate this spiritual routine, the more you realize it's not just a nightly practice, but a way of life. Faith strengthens, spirituality deepens, and even on difficult days, there's a solid foundation to lean on. After all, true transformation doesn't happen all at once, but through the accumulation of small daily choices made with a heart turned toward God. Padre Pio's legacy goes far beyond the miracles and stigmata that marked his life. The true impact of his teachings lies in the simplicity with which he approached spirituality. For him, faith didn't require grand gestures, but genuine devotion, expressed in small daily practices. His words, like "thank you," "forgive," and "I trust," reflect this powerful simplicity, capable of transforming hearts and awakening a deep connection with God. What makes his teachings so special is precisely how they touch the everyday lives of people. Padre Pio shows us that spirituality isn't reserved for moments of worship or Bible study, but is present in the simplest routines, in a silent prayer, in an act of forgiveness, or in a thought of gratitude. He teaches us that the sacred can be found in the ordinary, as long as the heart is turned toward the divine. This legacy remains alive because it is timeless. His lessons don't grow old. On the contrary, they seem to gain even more strength in times of uncertainty and rush. He reminds us that inner peace doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on the intimate relationship we build with God. And the most inspiring thing is realizing that, by applying these teachings, we not only find personal transformation but also become instruments of faith in the lives of others. When something transforms our lives so deeply, it's natural to want to share it. Padre Pio's teachings, with their simplicity and spiritual power, were never meant to be kept locked away in our hearts. They are seeds that, when scattered, can bloom in other grounds, bringing faith and hope to those who need it most. A simple testimony of faith can touch someone unexpectedly, lighting a light where there was once darkness. Imagine the impact of a casual conversation where you mention how 3 words, "Thank you," "Forgive," and "I trust," change the way you face the day. This might seem small, but for someone silently struggling, it could be the beginning of a transformation. You don't need a sermon or a worship service to evangelize. Sometimes, an act of kindness, a silent prayer, or a sincere word of advice carries the power of the gospel more than 1,000 words. By sharing these teachings, you become part of a chain of faith and hope that spans generations. Padre Pio's legacy continues alive because ordinary people chose not to keep for themselves what they learned. And the most beautiful part? The more you share, the more these teachings take root in your own life, creating a cycle of spiritual growth that never ends. After all, faith, when shared, doesn't diminish, it multiplies. The true power of these 3 words, "Thank you," "Forgive," and "I trust," lies in making them a daily commitment, not just an occasional practice. Spiritual transformation doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of intentional choices made every day, even when motivation feels distant. Saying these words before bed is more than a ritual. It's a commitment to yourself and to God to seek a life that is lighter, more connected, and full of purpose. But this commitment doesn't need to be perfect. There will be nights when gratitude will feel hard, forgiveness will seem impossible, and trust will be a challenge. And that's okay. What matters isn't perfection, but perseverance. Each time you choose to give thanks, forgive, or trust, even when it's difficult, you are strengthening your soul and building a spiritual foundation that will support you during the most challenging times of your life. The final invitation is simple. Practice. Make these 3 words a reflection of your heart. Watch how they transform not just your nights, but also your days, your relationships, and the way you see the world. The impact might seem subtle at first, but over time, you'll realize that you're not just repeating words. You're living a new story of faith, hope, and transformation, written by you and guided by God's hands. Now that you know the power of these 3 words, "Thank you," "Forgive," and "I trust," the real question is, will you just know this or will you put it into practice? The transformation you seek in your spiritual life isn't in big events, but in the consistency of small daily gestures. What's stopping you from starting today? What do you have to lose by dedicating a few minutes before bed to reconnect with God and with yourself? Imagine the impact this simple practice could have on your mind, your heart, and even the way you face life's challenges. What if you started today, and in a week, already felt a lightness you haven't experienced in a long time? What would change in you if peace stopped being a search and became a present reality? Sometimes, what's missing for a great change is just the first step. If this content touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning about how small spiritual practices can lead to great transformations. And tell me in the comments, which of these 3 words resonated with you the most? Your response could inspire others to start this journey as well. After all, faith grows when shared.